So, I thought as a public service, since it's so hard to find reliable news these days, tonight I would provide a few rules of thumb for trying to follow the news in our modern age. Starting with, if the headlines in your preferred news outlet routinely feature words like shreds, destroys, pummels, bashes, your outlet is a partisan piece of shit. Either that or you're reading a Batman comic. If your news outlet consistently reduces everything that happens in the world to who the president of America is, get rid of it. It's just thoughtless, reflexive team politics. Trust me, no one lighting a tire fire in Haiti is thinking, I wouldn't have done this under Trump, but given the weakness of the Biden administration, why not?
Bill Maher is hitting pause on grilling Democrats and turning his fire toward the left-leaning media. Why? Because he's fed up with the lies, the fear-mongering, and the endless doom and gloom they keep selling to the American people. In today's world, news has become less about facts and more about shock value, a high-stakes game of clicks, ratings, and outrage, and Maher isn't having it. He's tearing into the media machine with some of his sharpest takedowns yet. Trust me, you want to see this. I've got all the clips lined up, so hit that subscribe button, and let's get into it.
It's time for the media to admit that they blew the whole thing way out of proportion, because as always with media these days, they don't cover what's most important, just what's most fun to watch. There are 15.2 million college students in the U.S., and 2,300 have been arrested. That's 1/67th of 1%, and half of the ones in New York weren't even students. But we were given the false impression that these protesters are the voice of their generation, having found a cause for which they were willing to go to the tents and to the barricades. Oh, please, these kids are more violent when their team wins a championship.
Mr. Bill Maher sets the scene by calling out how left-leaning media outlets have turned drama into an art form, blowing small stories way out of proportion. Case in point, the recent student protests against Israel. Maher didn't mince words, slamming CNN and others for spinning it like college campuses nationwide had gone full anti-Israel. But here's the kicker. Those protests involved less than 1% of the entire U.S. university student population. Maher's point? This isn't just exaggeration, it's full-on distortion. The media isn't trying to inform anymore. It's all about triggering emotions, chasing outrage clicks, and deepening divides. By shining a spotlight on fringe voices, they create the illusion that those views speak for everyone. And Maher's had enough. He's calling on the media to ditch the fear and manipulation and get back to truth, context, and real journalism. What he says next, absolutely scathing. Watch this.
A Harvard youth poll proved it. They asked people 18 to 29 what issues mattered most to them, and out of 16 choices, Palestine came in 15. The vast majority just want to do what they went to college for in the first place, to experiment with being a lesbian. But when these kids chant, the whole world is watching, they're right. But only because you assholes with the cameras won't show anything else. Isn't there a bear in a swimming pool somewhere you should be covering?
Flip over to MSNBC or NPR, and you'd think the country's unraveling at the seams. Every headline, every segment seems locked on the latest ICE protest, as if no other story is worth covering. It's a familiar playbook. Highlight the outrage, crank up the emotion, and pin every problem on Trump. To hear them tell it. Every crisis in America traces back to him, what he's done, what he hasn't done, what he might do next. Complex issues are flattened into a single narrative, where Trump is the villain and chaos is always just around the corner. Maher calls this exactly what it is, media malpractice, rather than educate. These outlets fuel panic. They manufacture a sense of emergency, not to inform, but to hook viewers. It's less about journalism, more about performance, and Maher isn't falling for it.
So, I thought as a public service, since it's so hard to find reliable news these days, tonight I would provide a few rules of thumb for trying to follow the news in our modern age. Starting with, if the headlines in your preferred news outlet routinely feature words like shreds, destroys, pummels, bashes. Your outlet is a partisan piece of shit. Either that or you're reading a Batman comic.
It's both intriguing and unsettling to see how even polished, highly educated journalists fall into the trap of click-driven sensationalism. These are professionals trained to pursue truth, verify facts, and serve the public interest. Yet far too many have abandoned those principles in exchange for attention and online traction. You almost expect a level of spin from YouTubers or independent voices who openly share their political leanings. At least there's honesty in that. But when mainstream reporters and legacy media outlets, the ones who loudly claim to be neutral, start chasing the same outrage-driven formulas, it crosses a line. It's not just disappointing. It's a betrayal of their role. They're supposed to be truth-tellers, not hype merchants. And Ma's issue isn't just with the flashy headlines. It's with the hypocrisy that fuels them. When objectivity is tossed aside for the sake of clicks and engagement stats, journalism ceases to be a civic duty and starts looking a lot more like theater. And that's exactly what Ma is calling out. Let me know if you like it, sure.
If your news outlet consistently reduces everything that happens in the world to who the President of America is, get rid of it. It's just thoughtless, reflexive team politics. Trust me, no one lighting a tire fire in Haiti is thinking, I wouldn't have done this under Trump, but given the weakness of the Biden administration, why not?
5. Ma hit the nail on the head with this one. Leading up to the 2024 election, it felt like MSNBC and CNN had only one subject on their radar: Trump, day after day. It was an endless cycle of Trump coverage, every scandal, every rally, every off-the-cuff remark picked apart from every angle. At times, you had to wonder if they even remembered Kamala Harris was running. Where was her voice? Her platform, her vision for the country, completely overshadowed. Every political discussion seemed to circle right back to Trump, no matter where it started. And that obsessive focus did more damage than they realized. Instead of sidelining him, they amplified him, handing him nonstop airtime, and turning him into the gravitational center of the race. In trying so hard to bring him down, they gave him exactly what he thrives on: attention. In the end, their attempt to bury Trump only breathed new life into his campaign. The media may have unintentionally paved the road for his return, and in doing so, played right into his hands.
Every problem in the world isn't caused by the president. When that train derailed in East Palestine, it wasn't because Trump deregulated the brakes, and the container ship didn't hit the bridge because of Biden's woke DEI agenda. These aren't news stories. They're storylines pumped into your bubble.
Even now, the left-leaning media just can't seem to let go of Trump. No matter the issue, the economy, social unrest, even the weather, somehow, he's still the scapegoat. The latest example, the ICE protests, sure, Trump set the stage with hardline immigration policies and aggressive rhetoric. But let's be honest, he's not the one coordinating raids or giving on-the-ground commands. That job falls to officials like Tom Homan, the former acting ICE director, who's been a key architect of U.S. immigration enforcement. His fingerprints are all over the strategies being carried out today. Yet you almost never hear his name in major media coverage. The narrative barely acknowledges his role. Even California Governor Gavin Newsom would rather take predictable swipes at Trump than address Homan's influence directly. Why? Because Trump still draws more clicks. He's the headline that keeps the outrage engine humming. Blaming him is easy and familiar, but this kind of coverage isn't just lazy. It's deeply misleading. By focusing solely on Trump while ignoring the actual players shaping policy, the media reveals its own bias and a troubling lack of depth in how it covers serious national issues.
Always be aware that once the news became a profit division of media companies, they stopped being in the news business and are now in the audience stroking business. The goal is no longer to inform opinions, it's to reinforce them. Walter Cronkite used to say, "That's the way it is." Now it's, "That's our story and we're sticking to it."
And beyond the profit motive, a lot of these left-leaning media outlets are also driven by ideology. Rather than presenting a full spectrum of viewpoints, they often push their own worldview onto audiences, framing stories to fit a narrative. Instead of offering balanced, nuanced reporting, take MSNBC, for example. Good luck finding a strong conservative voice anywhere on the network. It's essentially an echo chamber, where dissenting perspectives are either ignored or shut down entirely. CNN does a slightly better job at pretending to be balanced. They'll occasionally toss in a conservative guest for optics, but let's be real. Those panels are usually stacked 3 or 4-1, with the lone conservative getting tag-teamed by a lineup of progressive pundits. What does that produce? Not honest debate, not thoughtful discourse, just a scripted performance. Viewers end up watching a version of reality that's been carefully edited to validate their existing beliefs. That's not journalism, that's narrative control. And in a functioning democracy, media that prioritizes ideology over truth isn't just dishonest, it's dangerous.
And on NPR, where they stop bashing the rich long enough only to beg for money, Jamaica is a paradise and Nebraska is a no-go zone. News Nation reported this year that the U.S. was on track for nearly a 300% increase in measles cases. 300%? Wow, that sounds like it could be millions. It was 35, because they just want to manipulate you into clicking. Look, I have 10 fingers. You want to see me suddenly have 80% less?
This is exactly why so many people respect Bill Maher. He doesn't sugarcoat the truth. And he definitely doesn't shy away from naming the media outlets that thrive on clickbait and manufactured outrage, while others dance around the issue with vague critiques. Maher gets right to the point. He knows exactly who's contributing to the problem: CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, and he's not afraid to hold them accountable time and time again for their slanted coverage and agenda-driven narratives. That kind of blunt honesty is rare in today's media landscape. It's what makes Maher stand out. If more journalists had even a fraction of his willingness to call things as they are, we might actually see journalism shift back toward informing the public instead of manipulating them. But that's not what's happening. Instead, viewers are walking away from the old media gatekeepers and heading to platforms that still allow, for real, unscripted conversation. Places like Joe Rogan's or Theoven's podcasts. Spaces where different viewpoints aren't instantly shut down and where authenticity actually matters. That shift, it speaks volumes. People are tired of the spin, and they're hungry for something real.
Never trust the initial reports. The media cares way more about being first than being right. They love a scoop, but it's a scoop of shit because it always turns out to be wrong. This goes way back to, remember Columbine? Remember that, the first school shooting where it was widely reported that the shooters were members of a trench coat mafia? They weren't. That they were being bullied? Not true. And they targeted jocks. No evidence of that. So they got everything right except for all of it.
I've actually been keeping track of how often MSNBC and CNN rush to break a story, only for it to fall apart hours or days later. And it's not a one-off thing. It's a pattern. Remember CNN's infamous 2017 Russia Scaramucci story? They claimed a Senate committee was investigating a Russian investment fund tied to Trump officials, including Anthony Scaramucci. Within 24 hours, the story was pulled, an apology was issued, and 3 journalists resigned after CNN admitted it didn't meet their own editorial standards. Then there's MSNBC's 2019 fiasco with Lawrence O'Donnell. He aired a segment alleging, based on a single anonymous source, that Deutsche Bank documents connected Trump to Russian oligarchs. Turns out, the story couldn't be verified. O'Donnell retracted it on air and apologized, calling it a mistake in judgment. These aren't isolated blunders. They point to a deeper problem: speed over accuracy, and the rush to be first. Outlets lean on shaky sourcing, often just one unnamed person, and worry about corrections later, after the headlines have gone viral and reputations are damaged. And let's be honest, once misinformation hits social media and cable news cycles, the damage is done. You can't unring that bell. It's not just sloppy, it's dangerous. Every time a trusted outlet gets it wrong, public trust erodes. Even more, That vacuum gets filled by partisan echo chambers that offer certainty, not necessarily truth. If these legacy networks really practice what they preach, rigorous fact-checking, multiple source confirmation, real editorial oversight, we'd see fewer retractions and a lot more credibility. Until that happens, viewers are absolutely justified in questioning everything they hear from breaking news segments. Because too often, the race to be first leaves the rest of us with fractured facts. It's time mainstream media relearned. Basic lesson: accuracy comes before urgency. Thanks for tuning in. If you found this valuable, hit the like button and subscribe for more content that cuts through the noise. I'll catch you in the next one.